While I'll continue to convey Islam's version of Dishonest Abe to illustrate how Muhammad crafted his religious scam, I would be remiss if I didn't credit the prophet with his first miracle. He just pounded a nail into his own coffin. The Quranic story continues with these uninspired words.
Quran 21, verse 59. They said, "Who has done this to our gods? He is a mischief-monger. We heard a youth talk of them called Abraham. Then bring him before us, that he may testify." They said, "Are you the one who did this?" He said, "No, it was done by the biggest idol. Ask the other idols if they can speak." They were utterly shamed and confounded. "You know they do not speak." He said, "What? Do you then serve beside Allah what brings you no profit, nor can harm you? Fie upon you, and upon the things that you worship besides Allah. Have you no sense?" They said, "Burn him and protect our gods."
Since Allah never spoke, why didn't that shame Muhammad? And why wouldn't the supposed patriarch of the monotheistic Islam tell his people that a pagan god smashed lesser idols? Would that not make the idol real? Moreover, the Mohammedized Abraham called a god false because it cannot harm you. The implication is that Allah is real because he's fixated on sadistic torments. That's not good. Now that we have an argument raging, it's time to reshape Abraham of Ur into the image of Muhammad of Mecca. For this we will bounce between the 37th and 21st surahs.
Quran 37, verse 97. They said, "Build him a furnace and fling him into the blazing red-hot fire." Then they sought a plot against him, but we made them the ones most humiliated. And he said, "Surely I fly to my Lord. He will guide me."
When the townsfolk of Mecca developed their plot and tried to burn Muhammad's bridges, he flew off to Allah in his dreams. He jumped on Al-Barak, an imaginary winged steed, half ass and half donkey, like its rider, and cruised to heaven by way of Jerusalem. Although he humiliated himself with his tale of daring do, Muhammad also claimed that it was really the Meccans who were dashed.
Quran 21:69. We said, "O fire, be cool, and safety for Abraham." Then they sought a stratagem against him and wished to set a snare, but we made them the ones that lost most.
I know Allah loves plots, but this is ridiculous. Why would the townsfolk design a plot to snare him after they were burning him?
Quran 21, verse 71. But we delivered him and Lot to the land
of Israel,
which we have blessed for men and jinn.
This must be a joke. Allah has blessed Israel? Was that the blessing of the PLO or Islamic Jihad? As the Islamic Abraham flees the fire, we are confronted with an odd transition and unbelievable dialogue.
Quran 37, verse 100. Lord, grant me a righteous son. So we gave him the good news of a boy ready to suffer and forbear. Then, when the son reached the age of serious work with him, he said, "Son, I see in a vision that I offer you in sacrifice. Now, what is your view?" The son said, "O my father, do as you are commanded. You will find me, if Allah so wills, one practicing patience and constancy."
Even with 9 words artificially inserted into the text by the translators for clarification, this verse is bizarre. It is as if Muhammad overheard a half-dozen Bible stories and tried to tie them all together in one paragraph. Over the course of 5 sentences, he takes us from a gang of nameless people building a furnace to terrorize Abe to having him terrorize his son. And there is a significant detail missing. The son's name isn't stated, because Muhammad can't decide which son should be sacrificed, or even where and when the event occurred.
Quran 37, 103. When they had surrendered to Allah, and he had flung him on his face, we called out, "Abraham, you have fulfilled the vision." Lo, that was a clear test, and we ransomed him with a momentous sacrifice, with a tremendous victim.
Allah, the counterfeit God, continues to falsify history.
Quran 37, 110. Thus do we reward the doers of good, for he was one of our believing slaves. And we gave him the good news of the birth of Isaac, a prophet among the good ones. We blessed him and Isaac, but of their progeny are some that do right, and some that obviously do wrong.
As a reward for Abraham's faithfulness, Allah predicts the birth of the son he almost sacrificed. Brilliant. Somewhere, sometime, someone may have done a worse job of plagiarizing, but it's hard to imagine. The omissions, the lack of place, time, and purpose degrade one of the Bible's great events. Muhammad, Allah, was trying to rip off, utilize, the story of Abraham and Isaac. The original provides such a refreshing change from this dribble. It's worth a quick review. First, Yahweh sets the scene and unfolds the story chronologically. Genesis chronicles the life of Abraham, the places he lived, the people he encountered, as well as the birth of his two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. Yahweh had told Abraham to send Ishmael out of the promised land, and the boy fell out of Abraham's life and Yahweh's plans, fading into biblical oblivion. As we approach the 22nd chapter, God tells us that Abraham was living in Beersheba. He had just returned from visiting the Philistines in Gaza. With that context, he speaks to him about Isaac, the patriarch's miracle child from his wife Sarah, the beneficiary of the covenant. Now it came about after these things that Yahweh tested Abraham and called to him, "Abraham." "Here I am," Yahweh said. "Take your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a sacrifice on one of the mountains of which I will tell you." The temple in Jerusalem was built on Mount Moriah by Solomon to commemorate Abraham's faith. Yeshua would be sacrificed there to save mankind. To this day, it remains the most coveted place on earth, and it's a 3-day walk, 40 miles north by northwest from Beersheba. The details of the sacrifice were extraordinarily important to Yahweh. This drama had to be played out exactly as it would happen to Yeshua. The timing was important too. The call came 2,000 years after the fall of Adam, and 2,000 years before the Messiah endured the same fate. Remember, Yahweh gave us a pattern, 6 days of creation followed by a day of rest. It has been nearly 2,000 years since Yeshua's sacrifice, and the Bible tells us that 1,000 years of peace will follow his return. Abraham arose early, saddled his donkey, and took 2 young men with him, along with Isaac. He split wood for the sacrifice, and went to the place Yahweh had told him to go. On the 3rd day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw it from a distance. Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. The lad and I will go yonder. We will worship and return to you." Abraham took the wood for the offering and laid it upon his son. He took the fire and the knife. Fire is a metaphor for judgment, and the knife is the implement of atonement. Walking together, Isaac said, "Father?" He answered, "Here I am, my son." "I see the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering?" Yahweh will provide for himself the lamb for the offering. Abraham answers in God's name, "I am," or Yahweh, every time he's called. When they came to the place of which Yahweh had told them, Abraham arranged the altar, bound his son Isaac, and laid him on the wood. Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to sacrifice his son. But Yahweh called to him from heaven and said, "Abraham, here I am. Do not stretch out your hand against the boy, and do nothing to him, for I know that you love me, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Then Abraham raised his eyes and looked, and saw a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. He took the ram and offered him in place of his son. "Because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, I will greatly bless you, and I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heavens. And through your descendants all nations of the earth shall be blessed." So Abraham returned to his men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, where Abraham lived. Real Scripture sets human events in context so that we can learn something. Yahweh not only explained the nature of his relationship with man, but also explained what was to come, so that when it happened we might recognize the significance.